Right, welcome to a gift making tutorial that I've put together. All right, go into Photoshop, start there, okay, and we're going to create new. Now, it depends what you're making the gift for. If you're making it for an Instagram purpose, then you might change the ratio of the screen. But we're going to go down the route of a film so that you can get that. But you can make a square one or something like that if you wanted to put this on, I don't know, in any kind of artwork or something like that. We're going to create new, and you can see you've got all this come up here. I want you to go up to film and video up here, okay, and we're going to kind of go with HDTV, and we can create with that, okay. And this comes up. Now, I've probably got all mine. Let me just turn off my extras, which is my grid that I've got there. So I've now got a white sheet there, okay. Now I can do simple drawings on here if I want. But I want to click up here into window. Sorry, I probably won't see that bit of it on the screen. If I go into window and I go all the way down and I hit timeline, and you'll find a timeline comes up there. I'm going to fit the fill screen there on that one. But I'm looking at the timeline here. This is the timeline. We're going to be working with that in a moment. But first of all, what I want to do, I'm going to zoom out of this. So get that on the screen. I can do a drawing here. So, or I could, if I wanted to, start bringing in photographs. If I have individual photographs, and we can bring those in as well. So I'll show you that in a moment. But we'll do a drawing one first to start with. So the drawing one is here. You can bring in other things as well. If you've cut and pasted stuff, you can kind of grab bits from other Photoshop files. I'll show you that later, but we're going to start with the drawing one. All right, so I'm going to do a simple little drawing. I call this one the funny face. I'm going to select my brush tool. There's my brush tool. I'm going to ensure that I've got a nice black colour there, and I'm going to make sure I've got, let's have a look at my brush size and take that down in size there. That's a good size, I think. And I'm going to draw a funny face. So I'm going to draw a circle like so. Put some ears on. And I'm going to kind of lift him off the edge, and I'm going to join him up there because I want to be able to flood fill that. And then I can put on some eyes. And a little nose. Just like that. And a mouth. So there's that guy. Nice and simple. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. Now you can see this says background. I'm going to unlock this. So it's no longer a background, and I'm going to add another layer on here. Okay. Now I can see through that layer, so I want to go onto the first layer and change its opacity so that I've got like an onion skin effect. And then make sure I'm on layer 1, and I can trace my man doing the same sort of thing. It doesn't matter if it isn't quite as accurate, because it gives it a kind of wobbly effect. Yes, we do. Like so. Those. we're going to make his mouth start to smile, like so. And you've got to just repeat this process really. Add another layer, go back to the last layer, and you can bring the opacity of that down. We'll go back and review the opacity in a moment when I've done. I think I'm going to do about 5 of these drawings. Oops. So make sure I'm on layer 2, and then I can paint in my man. Like so. A little bit of nose. I might make his eyes kind of blink a little bit and make his smile get a little bigger. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go back onto layer 2, change the opacity, and we're getting a good idea now. You can see it coming together. And make sure I'm on layer 3. And you will cock it up because I do all the time. There we go, and come around here. I'm just moving his head a little bit. And we'll have the final one. Oh, I forgot to do his other arm. Let me get that done. Rushing too much there. And join that up there like so. And we'll just pick that layer off. And if I want to, I can turn these other ones off just to make sure I'm getting the right look. And this is the final one. So I'm going to take this and oops. Like so. And he's really happy now. I'm going to really make this grin stretch right across his face because he's so happy. Some teeth in there as well. Like so. And his other shoulder, I mustn't forget that one this time. There you go. Down there and across. So we've now got all these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start colouring them quite easily, just going in with some flood fill colour. So I'm going to do the background, which I'm going to make a kind of sky blue, I suppose, of some sort. I'll do. And I'm going to use the flood fill tool just to kind of flood the backgrounds. So I'll go into each of those and I'll turn each one off like so. And while I'm there, I'll probably change the opacity, bring that back up. You can see that's happening there. Turn that off, turn that one on, change the opacity just to check everything goes okay. And then into that one, change opacity. You can see I'm turning the eyes off so I can't see them each time. And into the final one, change the opacity and put the blue in. Now we're going to put some colour into our fellow. We may wish not to do that, but I'm going to get a nice red colour for his jumper, I think. So we'll choose a sort of nice red like that. I'm going to colour him in, and then go through each of them, colouring in their jumpers. You see, because we've linked it up at the bottom, it will flood in there, otherwise it might flood round. So we'll just go into these, and then into this one, and then into this one. So you can see now we've got that. I'm going to now get the skin tone, and you can choose whatever you want. I'm going to put that, make sure I do the ears. Quite quick and simple. And I'd like you to try and do this. See if you can make a little man or a little person or something like this. So I'm going back to the first layer. You can see here we've got a mouth that we need to fill in, so I need to fill that. I'm going to put a dark colour in there. Make sure I'm on the layer. That's right. I'll just double click that, get that in there. And I think I've got one on here as well. That's right. I'll go into that layer, click on there, and I might put some teeth colour in that one. So maybe a sort of off-white. He's not quite got the right sort of teeth. Like there. So now we've got all these different images. We can then start to animate and putting this into a GIF. So this is the timeline, and you might find it attached to the bottom down here. We'll sort that out. Let me just move this over so you can see what's going on. So move that down and get the hand to move it up. Let's have a look. So anyway, here's the frame. If you've got this here, it says create frame animation. You can actually use videos in here. It's quite useful for rotoscoping, which means tracing over bits of video. So you can put short clips in here and then trace over them, which I could show you at some stage. But now we're going for create frame animation. You see, you make sure that's ticked or it says it there. Once you've done that, you click on that and you'll see this timeline comes up here. And now we've got the last frame, that one that we can see there. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate these. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers, so we need 5 frames. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this like this, so that we've got 5 frames. Now, if we go to the first frame, and we turn off everything, and we turn on 0 layer. Now you can see that appears in all of them. And then if I go to the second frame and I turn off the 0 layer and turn on the first layer, and then I go to the third layer and turn on the third layer, and then I go to the fourth layer and turn on the fourth layer, and then I go to the fifth layer and turn on the fifth layer there. So now, if I play this, you'll see it goes quite fast. So I'll have a quick look at this. All right, so you can see it loops very, very fast. And that could look good, but you might want to change the timings, and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to select the first in the timeline, and then pressing Shift, I click on all of them to select them, and I can then go into here and I can change the delay between each one. So I'm going to change it to 0.2, all right, of a second to see how that looks. So I'll do that, and you can see now all of these have changed. You can change individual ones if you want them to slow down. Smiling. There we go. Look at him go. Brilliant. So what we're going to do is we're going to select. You don't have to worry. You'll keep your all the same layers in the layer section, but you can duplicate and move timeline bits along. So what I'm going to be doing is duplicating specific ones to move along so that I'm looping it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going from the beginning to frame 5 and then from frame 5 all the way back to the beginning again, so that I can make a longer sort of loop of my character. Okay, so the timeline you can duplicate and have as many, but you can still only have 5 here, so you could have quite a lot here. You could use all these images to create your animation or your GIF. But this can be a simple loop. It doesn't mean to be much. Do you know what I mean? You can use photographs or bits of photographs and move bits around per frame. All you've got to do is create these frames, and then you can put them in any order you want in the timeline to create a loop. And once you get something like this, and it could be a 3-panel loop, it could be 11 panels like I've got. All right. So once you've got it, you've got the speed that you want. You can then export this. So if we go File and Export, you can go Export and Save for Web Legacy, which is the important one. And this comes up. Now, this gives us probably a default JPEG. We need to go into GIF. Right, it will change now, and then you should be able to watch it like that. And when you're happy with that, you can save that. Obviously, then you need to give it a name, so I'm going to call mine Redman GIF, and I'm putting that on my desktop, and I'll click Save, and there you go. That's saving a GIF. So we'll have a look for the Redman. There it is, I think. There we are. So if I open it in here, I can look at it like that. I can preview it online if I want to, but that is essentially how you make a GIF. So if I wanted to put that on to the internet, because I'm working in Mac, it would show up on a PC. So if I open with Safari, I can see the GIF there. That's my GIF. I can put that into a document. I can put that onto social media. I can use that as part of a video and put it into a movie file, create a movie out of it. So this is how you can create simple animations. If you wanted to, I'll just turn that off. If we go back into Photoshop, if you wanted to, you could import videos and stuff like that and put some of that in. I won't show you any of that just now, but you could, if I maybe went for a new project. Let me just do a new one quickly. I could bring in things like, I'm just going to open a few files that we need. I could bring in a file like this. This is a London street I've cut out earlier using Photoshop, and I'm going to drop that into here, and I'm going to create a kind of Terry Gilliam-y kind of background that I can use for some sort of animation. So moving that sort of there. Maybe we'll get another one. So you can start to put that in. I'll show you how that works. I'll just open the other ones. London Street. What's that one? That's not that one. London PST. This one opened. Drag that in. You see, I can drag in through layers. Right. Drag it. Put it onto layer 2 there. I'm going to make it bigger. Transform the scale. And I'm also going to spin it round as well. And I made it look sort of photocopy-ish. Transform. And flip. Horizontal. So now I've got that. I can bring that much bigger up here. Come in there. So we've kind of got this weird London street. I'm going to make my background blue, like the sky. That sort of blue today, I think. And we'll just flood fill that. So you've got something like that going on. Looks quite cool. And you could kind of bring characters in. Let's see if we can find a character that we could bring into that environment. And I'm going to have to open a new file. Let's see if I can find something interesting. Let's open these guys. I'm going to chop these guys out. So I'm going to look at these guys. I'll show you a bit of cutting out while we're here. Might as well. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on this. Change it to zoom in. I want to get into the blokes. I'm going to chop about. I'm going to use the pen tool. Make sure, stop, go. Make sure that you've got path selected here. All right, and then you can go around the edge of your characters like so. And you can, if you wanted to, zoom in so you can get in nice and close to get it accurate, and then return to the pen tool and carry on. And what you're doing is you're creating a path. Alright, paths are quite useful when taking bitmaps out and making them into essentially you're kind of vectorizing it by putting this around the edge. So you're playing with the two areas of bitmap and vector, which are the very different parts of any kind of animation. Now obviously this is probably a copyrighted image, I expect, but I'm playing with it in a different way, so I think I can get away with that, and it's for educational purposes, of course. So just cutting around their hats. I'm not going to worry too much about the stuff under their chins, there on their necks there. And we go all the way around. You can see I'm cutting out these boys like this. I don't know what I'm going to do with them quite. I think I'm going to have them sort of slide across the London scene. There, we'll just come down here. And you can see I'm keeping that going. I want to get all the way around the characters. Funny little foot there, isn't it? And so it joins up with the starting point basically. So you've got to kind of surround the whole bit as I'm doing. And then boink. See, suddenly it gels in. So if you now look at that, you can see that's a path, but it isn't a selection yet. So I want you to go into paths here on this bit. And you can see here, there's the work path. So I'm going to use that. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I've selected it, and then I'm going to click this little button down here, and it makes it into a selection. Doing. So now if I go back to my layers and go on to layer 0, and I edit, copy, and then put a new layer above, and edit, paste, and I turn off that. Now I can see I've got my gentleman nicely cut out. I think I'm going to go in and just do the little bits here. So we'll just do those again. So I might want to, so I'm going to do these little bits here, and I might want to go in. So I'm going to create a new work path, and this one I can just cut out around its head there, and that's one. Make that into a work path, delete. Another one just here like this, and we'll make that into a selection and delete. So now I need to deselect that, otherwise it will be problematic. So now I've got my gentleman here. This is the layer I want. I don't want all this other guff. I don't need that at all. So what I'm now going to do is get my select tool, and I'm just going to pull that into my Untitled 2 scene. There they are, and they're right on the bottom, so I'm going to pull them up to the top layer. So we've now got our soldiers, and I'm going to make them bigger, scale them, and you can see that. So we're going to have them come in from there, and we're going to make them move. So now we can go back to the timeline. So we've got all our bits and pieces. So this time we're going to create a frame animation. So make sure it's on there. You can click that just to check. Timeline up, create a frame animation, and you'll see here's my first frame. Now this is quite good fun, so we're going to go through this, but I'm going to think about how I'm going to create these layers. So I'm initially I'm thinking of creating these layers, so I'm going to, so now I've got the timeline. So I'm going to make our men move across the screen. Okay, so we're going to do that by creating several different keyframes. So I'm going to change the timing, I think, to 0.1 of a second on this one, and then every time I duplicate it, that will be 0.1 of a second. So you can see now I'm going to do, I think probably about 12 frames. So we can start here, and I'm going to start here, and each time I move onto a different one, I will then use this tool and move my man just a fraction over, and like that. And if we want to see what was going on beforehand, we can there's the onion skin, there's the layers, that's good. So so onion skin settings, we can set that from there. We've got these here, so you can see he's moving across, move him again. The first, so kind of judge where you're putting the guys, like somewhere there, and you could always adjust it a little bit later. Maybe I don't need those many. Double that over there. Okay. And I'll take them. Take that one off on that one. And now if we start at the beginning, you can see it's a little bit fast, so I think I'm going to select them all and change the frame rate. So I'm going to select all that and then go into here and have no delay. Have it's 0.2 of a second, so we'll try that. You can onion skin with this. There are some onion skin settings that you can set, which are quite good, but I find that it's a little bit cumbersome. It's better to sort of do it by eye. So this is some way of kind of creating a kind of Monty Python style piece of artwork. And so now we want to export it yet again. If we go export, save for web legacy, and if we go to make sure it's a GIF, you can watch it play like so, and then go save, and we'll call that London GIF, and I'm going to save that, and I can put Photoshop down. I should have London GIF somewhere here on my desktop. There it is there. And if I want to watch it on a Mac, I right click and I open with, and if I open with Safari, you can see there's the GIF ready to go. As I say, you can save this also as a movie file, or you can put it into a movie, so you could export it as a movie file as opposed to a GIF. But that's how you make a GIF. If you're just using photographs, you're just going to be placing each photograph one after the other and making it work like that. It is quite time consuming depending on how many photos you've got. there are easier ways to put photos into some kind of moving image, but you should be able to do that by putting a folder into an editing program like Premiere or like Final Cut Pro. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed my little lesson. I hope it's given you something to get on with. Thank you guys. Bye.